Welcome back to Crown Chats. This week is a mystery. So I'm thrilled to welcome today's guest. He is the host of one of the most popular Hallmark podcasts and one of my favorites, Hallmark Mysteries and More. Please welcome Eric Rutin.
Well, thank you. It is great to be here. I'm excited that you started your show. It's a lot of fun. So exciting. It's always exciting when we have more of the Hallmark little clan doing their thing.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being here as one of my first guests. But you also were kind of introduced me to the world because you had me on a guest on your show about a year ago. So that was a fun experience. And you could say maybe you were my inspiration and all that. So there you go.
I go around telling it many people I'm their inspiration.
Oh, hey, well, you should. Why not?
I take credit.
If it's true, let it go. So since you are the expert, what are the ingredients for a good mystery?
Well, there's twofold. Are we talking a Hallmark mystery, or are we talking like the mystery in general? Because Hallmark obviously has their formula, which kind of keeps it a little bit tamer than going into some of them. But I'll just go with the Hallmark. And the Hallmark, we need our sleuther, and then you need typically the detective, but sometimes it can be two sleuthers. So we're reviewing, for example, The Fixer Upper, and it's Shannon Hughes, who's a contractor who gets into sleuthing, and she's paired with a mystery writer. So, like I say, typically, but you need those two main characters there. And in fact, I just had John Christian Plummer on as one of our guests, who's written the Mystery 101s. He wrote Francesca Quinn, Mystery Islands. And I asked him this question: do they need to have a romance? Because some of them, you look at them and you get like kind of a friend vibe. And when we were watching Curious Cater, it took them a while. And we're like, we would be totally fine if they just stayed in the friend zone, because Andrew Walker and Nikki DeLoche were just doing great, just being sort of parallel to each other. Now, granted, once they became a couple, they're adorable and they're wonderful, but we didn't need that. But he said, no, if you're doing your Hallmark, you need to get to the romance. So you definitely need that little romance that's coming. Typically, hopefully you get more than one of the mysteries. We're always a big proponent of 3, but typically you need that romance hitting by like the third one, really, to keep it going. And then you need that little mystery that's not going to be too scary, not going to be too much, but still intriguing. And then there's twofold that when we talk about them and analyze them. There's the one that's the mystery of like the whodunit, like, oh my gosh, we got to know who really did this. I don't know. There's good red herrings. But then there's the other one where it's just a good, compelling story. And a lot of Hallmarks will fall into that, where you like the character, you like where they're going, but you see that guy come onto the screen and you're like, he doesn't even say a word, and you're like, yep, he did it, right? Because you can only have so many characters in a Hallmark movie. You got 124 minutes, so you can't go with too many different ones. So it's kind of a narrow cast. So you'll figure it out pretty quick. So there you go. You got like your leads, the male, female, where eventually you got some romance depending on where you're at. And then you have that mystery that's not going to be too scary. It's the cozy mystery. And, typically a dead body, but not always. And then they go ahead and they solve it, and a little bit of shenanigan along the way.
So as you were mentioning, Hallmark has made a lot of progress with the boundaries they've pushed, the risks they're taking, the type of deeper, darker stories they're telling. So what is it that you actually think Hallmark Mystery is doing well, and what do they need to continue to improve on?
Well, I'll say the one thing they need to continue to improve on is giving us more follow-ups to some of the mysteries. They introduce us to some characters. We like it, we enjoy it, or maybe we think, okay, we're not totally sold, but we're intrigued. Really, what we've been big proponents of is you kind of need 3 mysteries to first, you get to see the characters in that first one, and often they're kind of clunky, to be honest. And then the second one, you're understanding them. They don't have to do a lot of backstory. We know what's going on. And by that third one, they're humming. So I think that they really need to really commit to producing more. Like, what the heck, Cut Color Murder ended on and a big cliffhanger. We don't know what's going on. I don't think, to be honest, at this point, it's 3 years old. I don't think we're ever going to find out. Nikki and Nora, love those two characters. Are we ever Hunter King? I mean, come on, Rhiannon Fish, like two of their main stars. Are we ever going to see them again? And that was such a fun series. And then this last year, they another one, like they had the Gilded Ages or Gilded Newport Mysteries, and like we weren't super fans of it, but it has potential, period piece, right? So you got all that awkwardness out of that first one. Give us another one where they can breathe and maybe we'll like it and we'll enjoy it more. So that's what I think Hallmark needs to get better at. But what they are doing well is, and you kind of alluded to this, but they are getting a little bolder with some of their mysteries. We just recently had Mistletoe Murders, which is absolutely fantastic. Maybe the best mystery. The Mystery 101 folks will send me some, hate mail now, but maybe the best mystery they've ever done. So, but that had really good characters in there, great acting, but really, really good writing at the core of it. Then you have The Cases of Mystery Lane. Once again, really good writing that's in there based on some good characters. It's a little funnier one. So I think they've really elevated a lot of their writing. We had Dylan Neal on, who did the Gourmet Detectives, and it is a 3-part interview, long. Once we got him talking, just so you know, sorry, I digress, but I'd been trying for 3 years, and he's like, I don't do interviews because I have no filter. And once I start talking, I will say things I shouldn't say. And yep, that sums it up. But he really gave this great snapshot of what Hallmark was like back in the Bill Abbott days and the frustrations. And you're talking about how they, like the dead body in Cases of Mystery Lane, the first one, they talked about someone hanging themselves. And before, they would never really hit on it. They would just sort of allude, and they were really afraid. So now I think they are pushing it a little more. Dylan was talking about one of the episodes where Brooke gets knocked out, and he wasn't allowed to hit her, to knock her out. And he's like, "How do you advance it? How something's got to happen?" They're like, "Nope. The female cannot be, hit. They can't be unconscious. They can't be anything." And so it was such a frustration. So they really have gotten better with the storytelling by loosening up some of the reins. They're still cozy. They're not gonna, your grandma can watch them, your kids can watch them. They're nothing that's gonna really be too out there, but they're at least, a little more believable in that aspect. So that's where I think Hallmark has really pushed doing it. Plus, they've just given us some really good characters with some actors who we really like, and they just have to get back to, like I say, showing us some more of them.
So I love your walking reviews about the rom-coms, where you're just out and about chatting about your thoughts. And that's similar to me on the treadmill in the gym watching Hallmark. And you actually inspired me to put Hallmark Plus on my phone so that I could keep up out and about walking. So obviously you have no problem sharing your thoughts and opinions on the movies, but what is it that inspired you to start a podcast?
Well, I'll say a lot of it was naivete, because I had no idea, as you're finding out right now, how much time actually goes into putting one of these together, right? I listened to, a few of them, Hallmarkies, Girls Gone Hallmark, Love and Latte, and I was just enjoying it, and I thought, it'd be kind of fun to do. And I thought, you know what? No one really specifically talks mysteries. So that's kind of a niche, and I love the mystery. So why don't I do that? So I just did it. And like I say, I went into it very naive, did some YouTube things of how to do it, and stumbled on it. We're now in 3.5 years. We just passed 50,000 downloads and things. So it's going well. But going even further back, just like to the Hallmark. So the reviews I do when I'm walking my dog, and those are like the rom-coms, right? And that's just what I do on Instagram. And for that was funny because what happened was my wife was traveling to visit her sister, and I was just home alone watching Hallmark movies. I was like, you know what? I'm going to create a blog and like this Instagram, and I'm going to just talk about Hallmark movies. I know nobody out there is going to read it. There's no big audience for these Hallmark things. I was like completely ignorant of how big Hallmark really was. I thought I was like, me and a bunch of grandmas, and that was it. And so I created it and started getting on Instagram and quickly meeting, people like you in this Hallmark community. And it was such a fun group of people. And the great thing is, the world's crazy. And yet in this little bubble, we're all very positive and very supportive. And it's a great escape, right? That's what Hallmark really is at the end of the day, a nice escape. But I just was like blown away at, okay, no, Hallmark is huge and there's all these other things. And so I'm just going to be one little cog in this big dynamic. And I think we all bring a little bit different thing to it. So it's fun to, to talk and listen to, everyone else's content as well.
And you've had the chance to interview some of the top directors, actors, writers, creative artists. Are there any particular interviews that are favorites of yours or stood out to you, or any just fun memories you want to share from them?
There's JC Doughton, who is our first interview, who's adorable, and I just crush on her. And when I first was starting, I reached out to her. I was like, she's going to say no, and it's going to be terrible. And she said yes, and I was like blown away. And I was like, wow. And she's now been on 3 times. Next Curious Cater, she'll come back on, and she's absolutely delightful. So it was just sort of that thing of, wow, they actually talk to you. And we've realized a lot of Hallmark actors, there's so much more accessibility in this audience, or this group of, not audience, but of the actors than you would have in normal, Hollywood things. Like they're all so nice and, and can support you. But then as far as then my biggest one was John Christian Plummer, who once again, we're having him on, and he's talking about Mystery Island. But when Mystery 101 was canceled, he came on our podcast and revealed what would have been the next episode, what would have been the answer to the cliffhanger, right? And we were the only place in the entire world, this little tiny podcast, and it blew my mind. I was talking to my wife, I was like, I'm amazed bigger outlets are not actually asking, but we were the only one who asked. And so we ended up getting it. And so we revealed it. It's by far our biggest episode we've ever done to this day. I mean, it was 2 years ago. We still get people commenting and everything like that. A lot of people also, by the way, we're Hallmark Mysteries and More. They think we are actually Hallmark. And so they send us some very unpleasant DMs about how terrible we are. But so that was like sort of this big one. And like I said, he just came on and said, this is what would have happened and everything like that. So that was really fantastic. But then just recently, I did Leah Thompson, who, being a Gen Xer, and I will not lie, I crushed hard on her back in the old 80s with, the Back to the Future, All the Right Moves, Howard the Duck, those movies back then. So like, I was texting my college roommate being like, oh my God, I cannot believe who I'm talking to. And that's the only interview where at the very beginning, like I've talked to some people who, Allison Sweeney, Sarah Drew, who are like, I'm in awe of, right? But with that one, I barely able to talk because I was like, oh my God. And she's like, oh, can you just give me a minute? My dog's whatever. And I was so thankful because I was able to like just relax. I was like doing the breathing exercises. So when she came back, I was able to talk. But like the thing of, talking to someone who these major Hollywood people who you never in a million years think you ever would talk to. And then she could not have been nicer, kinder, more just down to earth type person too. So it wasn't like, how they always say, don't ever meet your heroes or whatever. Not at all. She was absolutely fantastic, which I'll tell you, every person I've talked to so far, and we've talked to, like you said, a lot of them, everyone has been super nice.
And that brings us to our final segment, which I call a little crown to crown, which is simply a rapid fire response. I'm going to give you a topic, and you're going to give me the first answer that comes to mind. Okay, so a little rapid fire here. What is your all-time favorite mystery series or detective character? It does not have to be Hallmark.
Well, it has been Gourmet Detective since the beginning of my Hallmark sleuthing. But tell you what, that Mistletoe Murders, oh, so good. I feel guilty thinking it supplanted it because I've had such a loyalty to Gourmet Detective, but it's really good. So,
What is one Hallmark mystery series you wish was revived?
well, then I can go Gourmet Detective easy, but I'll go even for a lower hanging fruit because we know Dylan Neal's never coming back to Hallmark even for whatever. So I'll go back to Chronicle Mysteries with Benjamin Ayres and Alison Sweeney. I really enjoyed Chronicle. Alison Sweeney is just magnificent in whatever she does. It doesn't matter. Put her on screen. It's fantastic. And then you got Benjamin, who was pretty serious in that, but maybe we've seen his humor. Maybe they could inject a little more fun Benjamin in it. But I think that series is also about podcaster and everything. So let's bring that one back.
You had the chance to star in a Hallmark mystery movie. Who are you choosing as your co-star, sidekick, or potentially your evil villain?
Oh, my evil. Well, wait, that's opposite, huh? Oh boy. My sidekick would be Keezy Burrows, and she's Janie, Baroness Janie on Mystery Island. Absolutely love her. I can't do JC because I would not be able to deliver a line. I would just be looking at her with googly eyes all day. So I can't choose JC for that. Evan Roderick, I'd choose him too, but he's a lead, so I would be his sidekick for that. So I'll go with Keezy because, like I said, she's adorable, she's funny, and I think her and I would probably be a good combo.
Who is a guest on your podcast bucket list that you still have yet to interview?
Absolutely, Brooke Burns. Obviously, she's been my Hallmark crush all along, and my family knows that if Brooke Burns ever to ask me, I am leaving my entire family for that woman. So it's well established. That Brooke Burns every day, love that woman. Plus, like beyond crush and all that, she's like a game show host now. She's kind of left acting, it appears, and I can honestly say she is fantastic at her job. I love game shows and watching her. She really connects with her guests, her contestants, whatever. Like I thought she should have had a shot at when Wheel of Fortune was going. Like she really could have stepped into that and would have been fantastic. But Brooke, yeah, absolutely. That's my number one.
And lastly, a favorite charity or organization to give a shout out to that holds a place in your heart.
I will go with the ALS, which I think it's the ALS Foundation. But one of my really good friends here, unfortunately, his brother was diagnosed with it, and now my wife's boss recently was as well. So it's just a horrible disease that just comes on, affects people much too early from what I'm gathering, at least my exposure is much too early.
And that wraps us up. Thank you so much for being here and for giving me the web series podcast bug and taking a chance on me initially. So I appreciate it. And I always respect your honest, sometimes brutal opinions on all the Hallmark movies that we all love. We all want the best product possible, and you're a huge part of why that feedback is important. That said, everybody needs to be able to find and follow you, so let everybody know how they can keep up with Eric and Hallmark Mysteries and more.
Well, we are wherever you can think of from a platform. We are in Hallmark Mysteries and more. We're on YouTube. We're on Podcasts, Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all of those as well. And then we have our Instagram, which is where we communicate with a lot of people. We have a lot of engagement. Feel free to send DMs. We have some really enlightening conversations, even from the people who don't think we're Hallmark. And it's a lot of fun. But then I also have my little double identity where I'm Hallmark movie reviewer, where I do the rom-coms and all that. So that's sort of my light, fluffy side. And I tend to be a pretty, I think, generous reviewer because I just like them. They're happy and they're my fun escape. So I'm over there as well.
And that wraps up another episode of Crown Chats. Thank you again for joining me on all the fun so far, and you don't want to miss all the fun guests coming soon, so be sure to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow me, Haley, at Outcrown the Halls on Instagram, and be sure to swing by dressingfestive.com to check out all the fun Crown Chats and Crown the Halls merch. The link is in the bio of this episode, as well as on my Instagram page. So, be styling in your crown apparel, and until next time, wear your crown. Your crown may tilt, may it never fall, but you are beautiful and you are strong.